When it comes to training, there's this really important idea that you need to think about principles and not prescription. And what this means is essentially you don't need to worry about what specific training split your favorite athlete is doing or an athlete you want to emulate is doing. You need to worry about the principles that inform why they're doing it. If there was a perfect split of training days or rep ranges or exercises you could do to get athletic or jacked, and that was guaranteed, then people would be making millions and millions off of just selling them. Like, they'd exist already and you'd know about it because that would be an unbelievable, incredible thing, but that just doesn't exist. That's not how training works.
But that's simply not possible.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why not, you stupid bastard?
In training, there isn't a magical approach, there isn't a specific exercise, there's not a specific rep range that causes anything to happen. And that's because we're all individuals with unique needs, affinities, backgrounds, and genetics, which just change the way we respond to training stimulus. No one will respond to the same program in the same way, and therefore there is not just one program to make that you can give to someone to get the same training response. Because of the major differences between all of us, everyone needs a truly unique training plan, and that may be in terms of actual days of the week. If you're a father of 3 and you need to work a full-time job, look after your kids, spend time with your wife, you're probably going to have less time available to train than a 25-year-old who can be in the gym 7 days a week. Now, a training plan that is 3 days a week and 7 days a week that is looking to achieve the same thing is going to look drastically different. That doesn't mean either plan won't work, it just means they're going to be different and the approach needs to change. And now that's only one thing that we can consider, just this external factor of time. But then when you start to consider genetic factors, you know, maybe you respond to strength training faster than someone else. Maybe they respond to hypertrophy training faster though. And then suddenly again, you need to think, well, your training plan is going to look different because you'll need to focus on different things and have different exercises, have different approaches. And this is when we come to the idea that, well, there is just not a prescription that we can apply. So how do we go about figuring out the unique training plans that each person needs? And that's very simple. It's developed by applying training principles to our training. So a really good example of a very basic training principle is that your creatine phosphate system takes 3 to 5 minutes to recover. So if you're training for maximal power output, you need to ensure that you're resting 3 to 5 minutes between your working sets. If you don't do that, you're going to struggle to develop power with the training you're doing, even if you're training for power. Like if you're doing 100-meter sprints, but you're resting 30 seconds in between them, you will always be too fatigued for your maximal power to actually improve. So we apply this training principle. We can then set a rest range for the exercise we're doing. And of course, this can inform differences in training plans based on what you want to do. If you're an athlete that needs to improve their power endurance, then you're actually going to look to deliberately make those rest times shorter. If you're an athlete that needs to improve their power output, you will have longer rest times. There are hundreds of other principles, and that may be principles you've just learned generally through training. So for example, where I've coached quite a lot of people, I found if you want to learn handstands, you're going to need to do them about 2 to 3 times a week minimum, because they're a highly technical movement, so you just need a lot of exposure. Once a week can work, but for the vast majority of people, they just need more volume. So if someone wants to do handstands, I try and find ways to get it into their program. Then the way we get that in is informed by the time availability and what they're able to do. So if someone's a very busy father of 3 and they just don't have the time to train, I might not actually put 3 handstand sessions in their gym time because they may only be in the gym for an hour. We might have 3 10-minute short workouts that they can chuck in their lunch break and then have their gym training plan separately. We have to make these decisions based on an individual's wants, goals, needs, and then the constraints around that person, be those genetic or external factors like time. That's how you start molding and forming a training plan that really works. But of course, you can't just know a training plan is going to work by applying these principles. You need to apply them, you need to create a plan, and then you need to do the plan for, 6 to 12 weeks, see what happens, and make adjustments accordingly. Sometimes you may be able to make really quick adjustments. Say you maybe think that you can very comfortably do 5x5s on deadlifts and it not affect your recovery for the rest of the week because you've done it before, so you've applied that principle. Maybe in this plan, it just happens to fatigue you too much, so you go down to 4 sets of 5, 3 sets of 5. It may be things that you change over a bit of a longer period of time. So for example, you've been working your high bar squats in an 8 to 10 rep range. You were consistently seeing the weight going up over the first 6 weeks. It stalls on week 7 and 8, so then you switch the rep range and then you start seeing progress again. Maybe you go down to into some fives, maybe you turn them into pause squats, who knows, and then you start seeing progress again. So you start making these tweaks and adjustments in response to the results you're seeing based on the decisions you've made in your programming. And remember, the way you make these decisions in building programs is by applying training principles that you've learned over time, be that in your own training, through coaching people, or through the things that you see athletes you aspire to be like doing and their reasoning for doing it. Now, what's really great about this is the longer you do this for, the more you see your own training, you see the results, the decisions you've made, you try different principles, the more and more accurate your predictions of how training will affect your body get, because you just have so much more information to work off of. You've experimented with so many more things and you've tried so many different principles to actually make decisions within your training. And over time, you find the ones that work for you or work for your clients. And over time, you just keep evolving this program until it gets closer and closer to perfect. It will never quite be perfect, but you can get very, very good at training individuals by spending a long period of time seeing the results and adapting accordingly. And this is fundamentally why it's so important not to ask for prescription of what someone does. You don't need to ask for their specific program. You want to ask about why they are training in the way they are, and then think about how you can apply that to your unique situation. This is such an important principle of training. It's actually something that all of our coaches at Different Breed apply. We work on a very close basis with our clients, consistently talking to them, consistently evaluating their training and evaluating feedback that they give us, and making changes and adjustments to their program week to week to make sure it keeps shifting towards their goal, towards that perfect program to develop them forward. And of course, then if the goals change, we reshift that whole program, rejig it around, we make a new one and we go again. Same if they go on holidays, same if anything in life gets in the way. This process of applying principles and then adjusting accordingly is the way that you can get truly astounding results and truly astounding training. And like I say, it's so fundamentally important. It is a core tenet of our coaching at Different Breed, which turns people into absolute athletic freaks. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more like this, hit subscribe and I will catch you guys next week.